Colts Neck, New Jersey. A town of about 10,000 people, nestled in horse country, and about 40 miles south of New York City. The kind of place where millionaires stable thoroughbreds and NFL players buy weekend homes, where the average house price pushes past $1 million, and the roads are lined with horse farms and white fences. It's not a place where you would expect tragedy. It's not a place where you would expect evil. But on the morning of November 20th, 2018, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, one of the most horrific crimes in New Jersey history unfolded right here on a quiet street called Willowbrook Road. 4 members of one family were dead. 2 houses were on fire. And the man prosecutors would eventually accuse of it all, he was already at the police station playing the role of a grieving brother. Before we get into what happened, you need to know who we lost. Keith Caneiro was 50 years old. He lived at 15 Willowbrook Road in Colts Neck with his wife Jennifer, who was 45, their son Jesse, who was 11, and their daughter Sophia, who was 8 years old. Keith was a successful technology entrepreneur. He and his older brother Paul ran 2 IT consulting companies together, Square One IT and Square One Solutions. By all appearances, they were a close family. Brothers building a business, raising their kids together, living the American dream in horse country, New Jersey. But beneath the surface, something had gone very wrong.
On to a stunning and emotional verdict in one of New Jersey's most disturbing murder cases. Paul Caneiro has been found guilty of killing his brother Keith, Keith's wife Jennifer, and also their 2 young children.
The night before the murders, Keith Caneiro sent an email. According to prosecutors and court documents, Keith had discovered that money was missing from their business accounts, and he believed his brother Paul was responsible. In that email sent the evening of November 19th, Keith wrote that he would stop paying Paul's wife until he could find the missing funds. According to the indictment, Paul had stolen approximately $75,000 from the business, and prosecutors would later reveal that Paul was facing an even deeper financial crisis. He was about to be cut out of the family business entirely. There was also a $3 million life insurance policy. According to the prosecutors, if Keith's family was dead, Paul stood to collect $1.5 million. That night, Keith and Paul spoke on the phone. Investigators would later reveal it was one of the last 2 calls the brothers ever shared. At 1:28 in the morning, surveillance footage at Paul Caneiro's home in nearby Ocean Township captured him walking into his own garage and deliberately disconnecting his security cameras. He then drove to his brother's house in Colts Neck. Neighbors' cameras later caught a Porsche with distinctive taillights. It was Paul's vehicle, leaving his home and returning in the early morning hours. At 2:52 in the morning, the power went out at 15 Willowbrook Road. According to Verizon records entered into evidence, that's when service was cut to the house. Keith Caneiro saw the outage. He sent his final text messages to Paul saying he was going outside to check on the power in a failed generator. He went out to his front lawn at 3:18 in the morning. He never came back inside. What happened next inside that house is almost impossible to describe. Keith was found on his front lawn, face down. He had been shot 5 times, mostly in the head and back, at point-blank range. Inside, Jennifer was on a staircase, shot once in the head, and stabbed multiple times in the torso. Jesse, 11 years old, was found on the kitchen floor, stabbed multiple times. 8-year-old Sophia was found on a staircase landing between the first and second floors. She too had been stabbed repeatedly, including, according to detective testimony, a wound to her left eye. Then Paul set the house on fire. It was started deliberately in a basement storage closet, and according to investigators, both children were still alive when the fire began. Smoke inhalation was a contributing factor in their deaths. Hours before anyone in Colts Neck discovered what had happened, around 5 in the morning, fire departments responded to a separate blaze at Paul Caneiro's own home in Ocean Township, New Jersey. His wife and 2 adult daughters were inside that house when it caught fire. Paul arrived at the Ocean Township Police Department. He appeared quiet and visibly upset as the events unfolded. Investigators who arrived at his home saw signs of arson and made the call to retrieve the security camera DVR from the garage before the fire could destroy it. That decision would prove to be one of the most important calls in the entire investigation, because on that DVR was the footage of Paul at 1:28 in the morning disconnecting his own cameras. When investigators searched Paul's Porsche at the police station, they found a black backpack in the back seat. Inside that backpack, a folding knife, a gun barrel wrapped in paper towels, other firearm parts, Paul's passport, a SIM card, a thermal camera, 17 US saving bonds in the name of his own daughters, and a stack of bank and credit cards, mostly in Paul's name. It looked like a man who was planning to run. When investigators searched Paul Caneiro's Ocean Township home, they found something they weren't expecting buried in the basement debris. Clothes. Blood-stained clothes. DNA analysis confirmed that the blood on those jeans matched his niece, Sophia Caneiro. DNA from another item, an Eddie Bauer shirt, matched Paul himself. A chef's knife recovered from the Colts Neck house matched a knife block in Keith's kitchen. 5 bullets recovered from the Colts Neck crime scene were matched to a gun barrel found in that backpack in the back seat of Paul's Porsche. According to investigators, the gun had been fired at point-blank range. The muzzle was touching Keith Caneiro's hoodie when the first shot was fired. Paul Caneiro was arrested 3 days after the murders, initially on arson charges related to his own Ocean Township home. The murder charges came shortly afterward. He pleaded not guilty. Then came the wait, a long, agonizing wait for the victims' families and the community. The case moved through years of pretrial hearings. His defense team fought to have that critical surveillance footage thrown out, arguing police had seized it without a warrant. That fight went all the way to the New Jersey Supreme Court, which ruled in late 2025 that prosecutors could still use it, finding that police had acted in an objectively reasonable manner. Jury selection began in January 2026, more than 7 years after the murders. Opening statements were January 12, 2026. Prosecutor Nicole Wallace told the jury, quote, "The shock and terror of having their home invaded and in the dark, the defendant hunted them down," end quote. Prosecutor Wallace also said, quote, "The evidence will show Jesse and Sophia were still alive and breathing after their uncle repeatedly stabbed them. Still alive and breathing after their uncle set fire to their home and left them. Still alive and breathing as the smoke began to rise from the basement." The defense tried a different strategy. Paul's attorney, Monica Mastalone, pointed the finger at a third brother, Corey Caneiro, arguing police had never properly investigated him as a suspect, and that the DNA algorithms used in the case could have targeted a relative. She told the jury that Paul would have never killed Keith because Keith was his, quote, "favorite person in the world," end quote. Paul's own daughters testified in his defense. His daughter Marissa described the moment they were told everyone in Keith's family had died. Quote, "When they told us everyone died, my dad was really upset and crying," end quote. His other daughter, Katie, recalled cherished moments with her uncle, aunt, and young cousins, and broke down in tears on the stand. But prosecutors also pointed out that Paul's reaction at the police station told a different story. Investigators testified that he was quiet and composed, not the breakdown his daughters described. The jury didn't take long. After just a few hours of deliberations, they came back with a verdict on Friday, February 13th, 2026. Guilty on all counts. 4 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of aggravated arson, possession of a firearm for an unlawful purpose, possession of a knife for an unlawful purpose, theft, misapplication of entrusted property, hindering his own prosecution. Paul Caneiro sat motionless as the foreman read each verdict. His wife and daughters, who had been with him throughout the entire trial, were not present in the courtroom when it happened.
Guilty.
Outside the courthouse, Monmouth County Prosecutor Raymond Santiago addressed reporters.
I know the impact that this has had, not only on the family, friends, and the community at large in Monmouth County.
I'm just grateful to have justice for her and her family. It's been so long and she deserves the Girl Scouts and cheerleading with her.
How has that been all these years?
It's been hard without her. I'm grateful that she was in my life and I miss her.
I'm really glad she got justice. She was a fighter.
Paul Caneiro will likely spend the rest of his life in prison. Keith Caneiro built a life in Colts Neck. A successful business, a beautiful home, a wife he loved, and 2 kids who had their whole lives ahead of them. The Tuesday before Thanksgiving, his older brother took all of it away. Because of money, because of greed, because of desperation. Jesse was 11. Sophia was 8. They were still alive when the fire started. It took over 7 years for this case to reach a jury. It took that jury just a few hours to decide. And on February 13th, 2026, nearly 8 years after the murders, the Caneiro family finally got their verdict. Paul Caneiro will die in prison. That's the Caneiro case. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Drop a comment. I want to know what you think about the case. And if you're new here, subscribe. There's a lot more to come. Until next time, it's been your boy Buck. Adios.